This afternoon, a Hennepin County grand jury returned an indictment against Vance Bolter on the following 8 charges. I will list them in chronological order by crime scene. Attempted first-degree murder of John Hoffman. Attempted first-degree murder of Yvette Hoffman. Attempted first-degree murder of Hope Hoffman. Attempted first-degree murder of Kristen Bonner. First-degree premeditated murder of Mark Hortman. First-degree premeditated murder of Melissa Hortman. Felony cruelty to an animal for Gilbert Hortman. And impersonating a police officer with one aggravating factor, which is driving a police car or a car that looked like a police car. Before I talk about the charges, I want to take a moment to discuss the process that led us to this indictment today. These crimes were carried out on Saturday, June 14th. Our office filed criminal charges in a sealed complaint that same day, providing law enforcement the legal authority to arrest Bolter anywhere in the country. Police reports had not even been drafted and submitted yet, but time was of the essence. We worked with law enforcement to write the complaint with information they had worked to gather in very little time. After law enforcement arrested Bolter on our charges Sunday, they brought him to jail in downtown Minneapolis. He was scheduled to appear in Hennepin County District Court on our charges the next day, Monday. The federal government then took Bolter into their custody, where he remains today. This is one of the most complex investigations in the history of this state. As you have all heard, there were many law enforcement agencies that came together to capture Bolter. I want to recognize the BCA for their investigation, which has been and continues to be extremely thorough. We have received hundreds of videos and thousands of pages of reports over a period of weeks. Our team carefully reviewed the file and put together the evidence to present to the grand jury. I want to talk briefly about some of the evidence our office has received that we believe supports these charges. After shooting the Hortmans, Bolter left his vehicle, and I'll just refer to that as the fake police squad car, in their driveway. Inside, police found papers with handwritten notes with specific information about the Hoffmans, Kristen Bonner, and the Hortmans. There were also lists of items that Bolter had purchased. The BCA obtained evidence, including video, of Bolter buying many of these items with cash in the days leading up to the murders. This includes the clothing he wore and the items he used to impersonate a police officer. In the early morning hours of Saturday, June 14th, a vehicle that appears to be Bolter's fake squad car is seen on a neighbor's Ring camera video pulling over near the Hoffmans' home. After a short time, Bolter pulls back onto the street and parks outside the Hoffmans' home. State Senator John Hoffman's name appears multiple times in the handwritten notes that would later be found in the fake squad car. The notes include spouse, not a name, but it says spouse, number of children, address, phone numbers, and a star next to his name. Bolter is recorded on video ringing the Hoffmans' doorbell and knocking on the window multiple times before John Hoffman answers the door. After John opens the door, Bolter goes into the entryway, tells them he is a police officer, and asks about others in the home. While John, Yvette, and Hope are in the very small entryway, they realize he's wearing a mask. He can be heard telling them to show their hands. They successfully push him out of the house and shut the door. Bolter fires the gun at least 9 times through the front door, striking John and Yvette multiple times. Hope was on the floor at the time the shots were fired. After leaving the Hoffman home, Bolter drives to the home of State Representative Kristen Bonner, whose name is handwritten multiple times in the notes found in Bolter's fake squad car. Her name has a star next to it, as is the description of her home. Quote, split level, lots steps, corner lot, nicer house. Video from Bonner's Ring security camera shows Bolter wearing the mask and clothing identical to what he was wearing at the Hoffmans and matching what he wore when at the Hortman home. He rings her doorbell for over 2 minutes. He yells, "This is the police," and points a flashlight at her front door. He tries to open the handle. Bonner was not home. In Minnesota, attempted murder is defined as intending to cause the death of a person and taking a substantial step toward that goal beyond mere preparation. It does not matter that the act could not be completed here. In other words, the fact that Bonner wasn't home at all is not a barrier to proving this charge. After finding no one home at Bonner's residence and encountering a police officer while parked near State Senator Ann Rest's home, Bolter drove to the home of the Hortmans. Former House Speaker Melissa's name, Hortman's name, appears multiple times in Bolter's handwritten notes. She has a star next to her name. When Mark Hortman answers the door, Bolter stands in the doorway. Melissa can be heard telling Mark to ask for this person's badge number, name, and jurisdiction. Bolter tells Mark he needs to, quote unquote, see his wife. He says he can't see her through the window and that he needs her to come down, presumably from the stairs. Bolter tells the Hortmans that he is a Maple Grove police officer. At approximately the same time, the Brooklyn Park police arrive in front of the Hortman home. Bolter then fires multiple shots at Mark while running toward him and into the house. After entering the house, Bolter fires multiple shots at Melissa Hortman. I want to clarify language that was in the complaint we filed on Saturday, June 14th. At the time, law enforcement believed that a Brooklyn Park police officer exchanged gunfire with Bolter. The BCA has determined that Bolter did not fire shots at law enforcement. An officer did fire multiple shots at Bolter after Bolter shot Mark Hortman in the doorway. None of the officer's shots hit Bolter or anyone in the Hortman home. In Minnesota, it is a crime to willfully inflict an act of cruelty on a companion animal. If that act results in great bodily harm or death, the crime is a felony. Gilbert was the Hortmans' beloved dog. Gilbert was barking when Mark opens the door, but when Mark says, "Gilbert, stay," Gilbert stops barking and is quiet. The evidence shows that Bolter intentionally shot Gilbert. Bolter shot Gilbert at the foot of the stairs on the main floor. Gilbert was not standing between Bolter and Mark. Gunshots are followed by sounds from Gilbert, who remains on the floor until he is carried out by law enforcement. He was partially paralyzed. Later, a decision was made to humanely euthanize Gilbert when a veterinarian determined that he would have no quality of life. Bolter willfully shot Gilbert, an act of cruelty that led to yet another loss for the Hortmans' grieving family. Under our prosecution, he will be held accountable for this compounding harm. Because Bolter remains in the custody of the federal government, we will wait until he's back in state custody to continue our prosecution. Until then, we will continue to prepare our case. When Bolter returns to state custody, we will be prepared to prosecute him, to hold him accountable to our community. We will do everything in our power to ensure that he is never able to hurt anyone again. Thank you. Questions?
Can you speak about the grand jury process? How long was this? How much evidence did they look at? When did it begin and when did it end?
So the evidence that I talked about today was evidence that we received. As you know, the grand jury is a secret process. Transcripts are secret, so I can't really talk about the evidence presented to the grand jury. We did start our presentation in less than 2 weeks after this happened. And then, as I mentioned, this was a voluminous file. We are continuously getting evidence, and so we were processing that evidence as the summer went along, and we finished that presentation today. Yes?
Mary, considering his federal cases moving forward first, will he be arraigned on these charges? Will he appear in state court at any juncture in the near future?
So the question is, since the case is going forward on the federal charges, will Bolter appear here in state court and make his first appearance, essentially? The answer is probably not. We can make a request of the federal government to give him back to us for that purpose. Our guess is that they will keep him until they are done with their process. So he has not made a court appearance here in district court and probably won't until the federal government is finished with their case.
To follow up on that, if he is convicted on these federal charges, and will he remain in federal custody at that point? Could he be transferred to state custody after that?
Yes, absolutely. And the question was, if he's convicted on the federal counts, could he come back here in state court for prosecution? And the answer is yes.
This is a two-part question. Mr. Belter has been making a lot of public statements to media in various organizations. They all appear to be coming from the federal jail where he's being held. Does that become evidence in your prosecution of him? And also, what do you make of the fact that he is trying to craft explanations for his crime in such a public way?
So the two-part question is that Bolter has been making comments and doing interviews from where he is being held in federal custody. And is that evidence that could be used in our prosecution? The answer is absolutely yes. Anytime a person voluntarily makes a statement, we as prosecutors, and this goes for federal prosecutors as well, can certainly use that information if we feel it's relevant to our prosecution. So, nobody is making him make a statement. He's doing that voluntarily. And so we can use that should we feel it's appropriate.
Do you allow any credence to the things that he's espousing, things like he was making a citizen's arrest, or that this kind of goes back to the FBI letter as well. I just wonder, are these things that your office is taking seriously in terms of pursuing, or maybe the investigators taking seriously in terms of pursuing whether he's being forthright?
So the question is, and I haven't listened to these interviews, but apparently he's making claims about conducting a citizen's arrest. Do we give any credence to that? No, we do not. And that is one of the reasons I talked a little bit about the evidence that we have received, including when you look back at the Hoffman attack. All three Hoffmans tried to did successfully push him out of the door. The door was shut. He shot through that door 9 times, hitting both John and Yvette Hoffman. Yes.
Was there any consideration for charging him for also pulling up to Senator Ann West's home? Even though he didn't actually get out of the car and go to her door, he seemed like he was attempting to try to do the same thing.
Yes. The question is, was there any consideration to asking the grand jury to indict for charges on his conduct at Senator Ann West's home? We put a great deal of thought into all of these charges and any potential charges. As I said, you have to take a substantial step toward committing the act. We felt the fact that he got out of the car and walked up to Representative Bonner's door, rang the doorbell for over 2 minutes, was yelling, "This is police," and tried to open the door was a substantial step forward. At Representative or Senator West's home, he remained in the car. So we felt that we would not bring those charges for that.
Sorry.
Yes.
Mary, why is this state prosecution important to move forward with, given that the feds have largely taken over the case at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 tracks going here. Certainly the federal government has every right to prosecute for whatever they think is appropriate. In state court, we are focusing on this prosecution. It's very important to us because these are members of our community here in Hennepin County. These were people who were public servants who represent us, and we feel it's important to hold Bolter accountable for what he did in this county. I will also say, there's no possibility of anyone pardoning, or at least in the federal government, pardoning Bolter on anything that we do here in state court.
Any sense of a timeline
Okay.
moving forward? I know it will be after the federal case, but anything more specific than that as far as when your case will kind of start to?
So the question is, do we have any sense of timeline to start our case? And the answer is no. We will monitor the federal case, and when he's available to us, we will proceed.
To follow up on what you just said, do you think that there is a substantial chance that President Trump could pardon Belter on these federal charges?
The question is, do we think that there's a substantial chance that Trump could pardon Belter on these charges? I have no idea. We have no idea. We're not focused on that. We are focused on bringing accountability and justice to the people of Hennepin County, and focusing on making sure that it sticks.
Mary,
Yes.
it's been hard to find a coherent motive in this case, and I'm wondering, having reviewed all the evidence, do you have a sense of what the motive in this crime may have been?
So the question is about what Bolter's motive might have been. I think that's a question that should be left at trial. At this point, that would be speculating, and I think that that's something that our team is looking at, and will make those appropriate arguments at trial.
It's been reported that there was like a laundry list of state senators and representatives that he had in his car, and it sounds like he had some specifics on the homes that he actually went to in terms of descriptions of the homes and amount of family members. Were there specific descriptions of other people on that list? Like, is there any indication that he was actively planning to go to 10, 15, 20 homes that day, or was it just those few that he went to?
So the question is, you've heard that he had a list with multiple names on it. What I will say, and I talked about the three names in particular that had stars next to them, those were names of people who were mentioned multiple times. There were people who were mentioned, other people who were mentioned, many people who were mentioned, but those specifically were mentioned multiple times, others were not.
So you said there was 3 people mentioned multiple times?
There were other people mentioned multiple times, but I'm not going to share that.
You
Who
said
those
the 3 had stars next to their name though?
Yes,
And that
they
would
did.
be the Hortmans, Hoffmans, and,
Representative Bonner.
okay.
And there were some specifics. I shared the specifics about Representative Bonner's home. The specifics had in the Hortmans and Hoffmans had to do with where they lived, how many kids they had, that sort of thing.
Can you
Maybe could
share
you
if
talk
there's a-
about if there's any evidence that anyone else helped him, or did he act alone?
The question is there any evidence that anyone else helped him, or did he act alone? This is why the BCA investigation is ongoing right now, but we see no indication that he received assistance at the time he committed these crimes.
Well, last question here.
Just specifically about this notion of stars around names, I know you can't name, but were there other people that had that indicator by them? I think just leaning towards, again, were there other specific targets that he did not get to that night?
Well, I will say there were other specific names with stars on them. I can't get into his mind. We're not going to speculate on what his plans were that night. Thank you.